Hey, welcome back to Wednesday live streams. This is a new series. We're calling it Loaded Dice. And this one is all about corruption. So we're going to be focusing over the next 4 weeks on all the things that are corrupt and terrible. But hopefully, light and upbeat in some kind of way, where we can be a little bit optimistic about what the opportunity is for all of us as independent voters, libertarians, those of you who are out there thinking things have got to change. That's us. That's what we're all about. That's what the Kasie, South Carolina campaign is all about. So if you're new here, my name is Dr. Kasie Whitener. I am a radio personality and entrepreneurship professor at the University of South Carolina and the libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate here in South Carolina. Welcome into our Wednesday live streams, which are all part of the campaign. We're going to start first with some campaign updates. It's been a couple weeks since I was live with you all. Of course, as you remember from our last live stream, or since our last live stream, Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away. And so the Republicans have been scrambling to fill his role or his position on the ballot for November 3rd. And they had a special primary election yesterday. We knew that it would end up in a runoff because there were 10 candidates on the ballot. And now we know that the two candidates moving forward to the runoff will be Darlene Graham Noreen. Anyway, Nordone. I think it's Nordone. Anyway, it doesn't matter because she's going by Darlene Graham. So Darlene Graham, Lindsey Graham's sister, she's currently our senator. She was appointed by Governor McMaster after her brother's passing, and she has jumped into the race to be a permanent fixture in Washington. And so she's one of them. She came out with about 30% of the vote. And Ralph Norman beat out the other House of Representatives contender, which was Russell Fry. So Ralph Norman is also on the ballot as well. So something to keep in mind now is that both of them are of that baby boomer generation. And the Democratic candidate is in the millennial generation, which means I am the Gen Xer on the ballot. So there you go. Those of you who are keeping up with generational politics, you have an entire choice here, right? So the Republicans put forth a boomer, the Democrats put forth a millennial, and as the libertarian, here I come for Gen X. So there you go. What else is going on? So what have the campaign been doing? So we've been busy, even though we haven't been having the live streams on Wednesdays. We've been really, really busy. We were able to participate in the Peach Festival back in July. I think I told you guys about that on the last live stream. So we were in the parade for that, but I've also been making various stops and visits to different places. And we actually finally got our hands on some peaches last week by going and visiting the old 96 peach route out in Edgefield County and Abbeville and McCormick, and had a lovely lunch at a place called Michelle's in McCormick and got to visit with Tim, the owner at Michelle's. If you're ever in McCormick, by all means, stop by the New York style pizza and subs, Michelle's in McCormick. That place was great. They shared with us a story that is going to kind of come close to what we're about to talk about tonight, which is government intervention and government corruption. In most of these small towns I'm going to, and most of these conversations I'm having, there's always a story about how the government tried to help and in fact just made things worse. And the story in McCormick is that they had about 75 parking spaces available in the downtown area. The city council decided that they were going to expand the parking in a 6-month project that turned into a 4-year project that turned that 75 spaces into 54 spaces. So as you might imagine, taking longer than expected, probably being over budget, just speculation, and then reducing the amount of actual parking they had downtown. That feels a little bit like that's what government does. So that was a story shared, an anecdote shared with me in McCormick. And these kinds of stories keep happening again and again and again. The other big topic in McCormick was data centers. That's been one that's statewide. People are having conversations around data centers. Where are they going to go? When are they going to go? There's a lot of people calling for moratorium from the State House. This morning, I was on the radio with Senator Russell Ott from the South Carolina district that covers Kasie and St. Matthews, some of Calhoun County, some of Lexington County. And what he and I were talking about as far as the data centers were concerned is it makes sense to want to take a little bit more time to think about it and make the right decision. A lot of these data center deals are happening behind closed doors where county council is being given opportunities. They're being shown pitches, I guess, for lack of a better word, by developers. The developers are a lot of times just the construction agent. They're not necessarily the people who will own and operate the data center. So there's just sort of a lot of haze around what is the process for getting these data centers started and installed. It's a big enough issue that they ask about it in the GOP debate in this special election. And everybody in that GOP field is all in on the data centers, including the two who have now moved on to the runoff. They believe that President Trump told them the data centers are good and we need them and we have to be able to compete with China through data centers. And so it's all lights are green. My perspective on that is that the local community needs to be making these choices. And so that comes down to whether or not you trust your county council. And can your county council be trusted to do the work that you need them to do, which is their due diligence on, is this the right investment? And is this the right business to be bringing to our community? And again, that's going to lead us into our conversation with our guest tonight, because we're going to be talking about the SilFab. I don't want to call it a debacle necessarily, a kerfuffle. Maybe that's the right word for it, but it is the SilFab drama going on in York County. We're going to get into the weeds on that here in just a minute. So a couple of other things from the campaign perspective. I also ended up in Barnwell yesterday, which was a lot of fun. I went to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon for women there yesterday. Really great, empowering conversation with a young woman named Kiwana, who gave us a great inspirational talk. So that was a lot of fun to be back in Barnwell for the second time. Even stopped into Blackville. And if anybody knows Miller's Bread Basket, please ask them to call me and tell me when they'll be open, because I've gone by there twice now and haven't been able to buy any bread at Miller's Bread Basket in Blackville. But hoping to get back down to Barnwell County and maybe see Miller's Bread Basket the next time I'm there. Tomorrow I'll be in Florence, South Carolina, which is actually my hometown. I was born there. So looking forward to going back there, seeing my cousins, aunts and uncles, and those folks, if I can get them to ditch work for a couple hours and hang out with me. But I'm there in the morning for a radio interview with Ken and Dave. I'm looking forward to that at 9 a.m. So if you guys are in the Florence area and you can tune in, I'll be on the radio with Ken and Dave. And then I'm also going to go by the Post and Courier and the PD office and visit with Deidre and hopefully get an interview there as well. So a little bit of press tomorrow morning, and then definitely going to the brewery out there as well. It's called, what is the name of the brewery out there? I'll have to look it up. I'll let you guys know, but definitely going to the brewery there and having lunch, because I met them at Brewfest last week. I can't believe I didn't even leave with the Brewfest thing. Brewfest was amazing. So if you were not there, I hate that for you. You should make plans to go next year. But Homeland Craft Beer and Wine in Leesville, the Leesville part of Batesburg, Leesville, Dawn and Rosemary, their place is fantastic. I was so excited to be there and be part of their sponsors list. So we sponsored a tent out there. We gave away koozies. We have more koozies to give away, but we gave away koozies. Thank you to Kasie Crow and to my husband, Charlie, for coming out, and also to Josh Parks for coming by as well. We had a good little libertarian turnout there and a lot of really great conversations with folks that were excited to see that there is another option for this U.S. Senate race coming up on November 3rd. So we're moving toward the general. Of course, I've been on the ballot since April 11th, and the Republicans are still trying to sort their stuff out, but we are getting closer to the general election, and we need amplification, folks. So all of you that are out there that are thinking, hey, Kasie's my gal and I'm getting behind her, I need for you to be telling your friends, get that out, get the word out as much as you can. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got a Low Country meetup coming up on Sunday. I'll put some details out about that too. Hopefully any of you guys in the Low Country will be able to come out and meet all of our Low Country candidates. Okay. Without further ado, because he's been waiting so patiently in the backstage, I want to introduce Scott Jensen. He's a board member for the nonprofit Citizens Alliance for Government Integrity, and they're working to move SilFab. And I've been reading up on this. I'm understanding how this whole thing came to be. But Scott, I'm going to let you give the basic story for the folks who've never heard of SilFab, who don't know what's happening in York County. Give us the little 30-second pitch. What happened? What is the craziness? Welcome to the program. I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks, Kasie. 30 seconds, that's difficult. 2022, the Rockefellers had a building that was empty. It was a distribution center, and Ralph Norman is in this district, and he's very involved in real estate. He has made a lot of money doing backroom deals with commercial real estate. So the York County Economic Development got together with some leaders of the county, and they were going to lease a heavy industrial property in Rock Hill. So essentially, SilFab, what they were planning on doing, they were actually going between Gastonia and York County, and they picked Fort Mill instead of Gastonia. Reason being, we found in FOIA documents that they said they wanted speed to completion and ease of permits and ease of regulations, essentially. So what they want to build, what they've been building, is a TopCon solar cell factory. It would be the largest and first in America, the first TopCon solar cell factory. Essentially, a lot of people are hearing about it and they're saying, oh, like solar, that's fine. And they've been lying to the public saying we're only doing assembly. This company is a Canadian company. Their owner is out of Italy, and they're licensing Chinese technology to build the TopCon factory. They have 2 factories currently. One of them went out of business. They used to have 3, 2 of them in Washington State, 1 in Canada. Now they have 1 in Washington State, 1 in Canada. Those factories are solar module assembly plants. Basically what they do is they import solar cells from China and they assemble them into panels. Solar panels, the thing you see on your roof. Solar cells are the things that panels are made of. This is their first attempt at actually manufacturing the solar cells. That's basically taking a silicon wafer and using a myriad of chemical processes, etching, bathing, chemically adhering various elements onto the wafer to make it a solar cell and be able to produce electricity with that solar cell. TopCon is one of the most hazardous and highly expensive, in-depth type of cell. So there's other what's called PERC cell manufacturing plants in America. Those are pretty bad, and those are certainly heavy industrial. TopCon takes it to the next level as far as additional hazardous and explosive and extremely volatile chemicals needed to make the TopCon cell. So the Rockefellers built this building for about $8 million, and it was empty. It was a distribution center and a light industrial development park in a very heavily residential area. There's 2 schools next door. There's a retirement community. There's an apartment complex and a ton of single-family home neighborhoods surrounding this light industrial distribution park. Essentially, it's like 4 buildings. One of them is Ross. Another one is a mixed use with multiple tenants. They bring products in, they sort them, they truck them out. Light industrial.
So I want to be really clear that everybody understands this. Already in existence when SilFab moved in were these schools, these neighborhoods, this old folks home. Like this was already an area that was zoned only for light industrial, which to your point is like distribution, meaning we bring the boxes in, we send the boxes out, but it's not supposed to be heavy manufacturing, and certainly not supposed to be the kind of heavy, intense manufacturing that is these solar panels that they're building there in the only facility in the country that's doing that.
Yeah, solar cell.
Okay.
They've been trying to lie to the public. Everybody's like, oh, it's just solar panels. Like, no, solar cells. Okay. So the Rockefellers had the building. They had one of the 4 buildings empty. They built it as a shell. Distribution centers are very, very light. They're like aluminum siding. They're just meant to be distribution. Right. So they built it for $8 million.
Look, I worked for Cenex Corporation. We had 11 warehouses nationwide. Distribution was all we did. I assure you, like it is literally on the shelf for 30 seconds and back off the shelf again. I mean, it's a high traffic, very, very airy kind of place. They have these, massive fans, but only because it was Atlanta, Georgia, and it was hot. But okay. But it's not made for that kind of stuff. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Rockefellers and Ralph Norman admitted later to pressuring the county council and pressuring local officials to approve and shove through backroom deals. It was called Project Borealis. The public had no idea what this was or what the name of it was until 2024, where the public became aware of what SilFab was actually planning on doing. And that SilFab was Project Borealis. We didn't know about it. It was all hush-hush. When we found out about it, we filed an appeal with the Board of Zoning Appeals in New York County legally. We said, does solar cell and solar panel manufacturing, can it take place legally in light industrial, according to the zoning code? We had a hearing and we presented all the evidence and presented all the documents that SilFab presented to DES. And overwhelmingly and unanimously, in the 5-0 ruling, the Board of Zoning Appeals ruled that no solar panel manufacturing is prohibited in light industrial. Importantly, this is very important, at that point in time, at that ruling, SilFab had not yet received any permits for constructing their wastewater treatment plant or their chemical storage buildings or their TMA building or their smokestack on site. Or that neither did it have any permits for upfitting the distribution center to build the clean rooms and the other equipment inside the light shell to convert it into a heavy industrial manufacturing, chemical manufacturing plant.
So they didn't have any permits to outfit this building to do what they were expecting to do. And then they were told they're not allowed to do it anyway because that building is not zoned for that. So really at that time, they could put the brakes on this whole thing and be like, okay, we're not in the right space. We need to move elsewhere.
Yes, and most alarmingly, we actually FOIA'd all the emails and all the documents. SilFab was at the BZA hearing, and about, I think it was the next day, SilFab sent an email to the chairwoman of the county council and said, when are we going to be getting our cease and desist letter? Because they had no permits at the time, and the BZA ruled that they can't operate in light industrial what they were planning on doing. So they, rightfully so, they said, okay, like, when are you going to issue us a cease and desist?
They expected to be kicked out. They expected to be told they couldn't stay there.
Yeah, because that's the law. In addition, the black and white of the zoning code clearly says light industrial does not include hazardous material treatment or storage. Two of their buildings are named chemical storage buildings. It's just violating the black and white of the zoning code. So the county manager, who is one of the most corrupt people in this, Josh Edwards, we're calling for him to get fired. He sent an email back to SilFab and said, you're not going to be getting a cease and desist. Everything's fine.
But why?
Because he's the one in power.
But I guess my question is, like, I don't understand why he would want to keep them. I mean, what is it that he thought that he, like, what's in it for him other than having, he wouldn't have even had to find another tenant for that building. It's not as if he's the property manager.
Okay, so the money behind this. We don't have the document on the direct corruption financially, but we have the pieces. And if your viewers want to put the pieces together, the Rockefellers, if people are familiar with Rockefellers, they leased it to SilFab. We have their lease signed by SilFab, leased it to the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers then sold the building, leased, with SilFab paying $500,000 in rent per month to a building that they didn't yet have permits for or constructing the operations that they were expecting to do. That's the reason they were paying heavy industrial rent. That building should only be like $100,000 a month in rent, but they're paying
that is a high rent.
They sold the building to Exeter, one of the largest REITs in the world, for $108 million. So Exeter paid $108 million. They paid a premium for a heavy industrial building in a light industrial district with a heavy industrial tenant with a long-term lease in place.
With a heavy industrial tenant who hadn't outfitted the building yet to even do what they needed to do.
Correct.
I mean, all of this seems like just bad decision making, Scott. I got to be honest with you, like top to bottom, it just sounds like bad decision making. All right, go ahead, keep going.
So Ralph Norman is on record. He held a meeting in 2024 to try to silence our movement in August, in the middle of 2024, when SilFab started to get the permits, and he held a meeting with some of the decision makers. He lied about who was there after the fact, and at that meeting, he lied about the chemicals. He lied about SilFab's processes. He admitted to taking campaign contributions from SilFab's lobbying firm, and he admitted to calling all the council members and personally pressuring them to pass the FILO, to pass the fee in lieu of, and approve the project.
And at this time, he was in the House of Representatives?
Yes. Okay. And he helped them get government grants, federal grants, to build the facility, and he helped them in the big, beautiful bill. He was the holdout vote, and he did a lot of carve-outs to actually help SilFab so that to put more tariffs on importing cells to help them domestically made cells.
Okay.
You know, Ralph Norman's a real estate developer. The Rockefellers are a real estate developer. Exeter is a real estate developer. They all own commercial properties in Rock Hill and Fort Mill.
Right.
And like we don't have yet a paper trail on exactly who got the proceeds from the $108 million, but the Rockefellers got $108 million. That's a fact.
Right.
So yes, to your point, what Josh Edwards did and what Jonathan Buono did, who is the planning director, and what Christy Cox did, who's the chairwoman, they all violated the law. Every day, according to the South Carolina Planning Act, every day they don't revoke the permits that are clearly unlawful. They're committing a misdemeanor every single day.
Right. All right, so where are we now? Because I know that you pulled together this community. First of all, I want to say the organizational stuff on this, the website, the community agents, the people who have, and by agents I mean the individuals who have stepped forward out of their own time in a volunteer capacity to fight for this and fight for their community and to say this is just not right. It should not be happening like this. It's extraordinary, and I can't believe I'm so excited to get to meet these folks in person tomorrow night at their meeting, because I just feel like this is what community action is all about. And it shouldn't come to this. It shouldn't come to seeing these gross, corrupt things that we have to then step forward and do the work. But I just love that these people are willing to do that. So talk a little bit about this organization, who's pulled it together, and what you guys have been able to do.
Absolutely. We have about 9,000 signature signers. I've never talked to one person in the entire town of Fort Mill that wants this project here. Everybody said, no, it's super wrong. It's super dangerous. It's super toxic. Real quick, SilFab would be using over 1 million pounds of the most toxic and explosive chemicals known to man. Pyrophoric chemicals mean they explode on contact with air, next to 13,000 gallons of liquid oxygen, which is rocket fuel, next to anhydrous ammonia, which kills people. Within yards of an elementary school playground. They already had 2 chemical spills when kids were out on the playground. If they had hydrofluoric acid on site, or silane, or nitrous oxide, or trimethyl aluminum, or phosphorus oxide chloride, the kids would be dead now. The reason that our community is fired up and has committed 2 years, I've been working on this about 5 hours a week for 2 years, as have dozens of other leaders in our movement. We have a private Facebook group with 3,900 people in that group. Every one of them is very dedicated to this cause. The reason is because our kids, their lives are at stake, literally. And not only our kids, but if this thing becomes operational, we're going to have daily trucks of chemicals, the most hazardous chemicals known to man, coming in our Fort Mill streets. In addition, they'll be pumping out toxic air pollutants, hydrofluoric acid, out of the factory smokestack. In addition, if there's a major fire or chemical leak, we actually paid $14,000 of our community's money to get a study from the University of South Carolina to see what the ramifications of a chemical spill would be.
And you guys published that study on your website, because I read it yesterday. Yeah, I mean, that's the visibility. Even just reading through the study yesterday, I mean, it's horrifying. The idea that that's even in our state, and because that goes to my next question. I want you to continue to tell us about the organization, but I also want to get to why nobody else knows about this. Why is it not in the press? Why is it not on the news? Why is it not why are not the Post and Courier and the state newspaper? Why isn't everybody talking about this?
Well, we have had, when the 2 spills occurred last year, I believe, I don't even know what.
They probably couldn't ignore it when kids got hurt.
When the spills occurred, we had everybody tweeting about it. I mean, Nancy Mace was posting about it every day. Tim Scott posted about it. The governor got involved. The Attorney General, Alan Wilson's been very involved. We have had every major news outlet in Charlotte, in the Charlotte region. I would say they've done, each one has probably done about 50 articles on SilFab in the past 2 years. Yeah, I've been in contact with national NBC outlet. We've done some national stories. Axios ranked us as the #1 green energy fight in America.
Okay, good. So there is some press. We're just not seeing it in Columbia.
Correct. Fitz News has done a lot of articles, but
well, he's statewide. Will Folks is statewide, so we'll give him credit for doing that. He's statewide, but out of our local Columbia stuff, we're just not seeing it. But I mean, we didn't see a whole lot about the mythical Panthers practice facility either. I mean, that was something that our York County affiliate told me about. I mean, we didn't know much about that either. So there's a lot. There's some crazy land deals that go on in York County.
But I mean, the thing about this is this has the making of the largest ecological disaster in America. Because for a variety of reasons, not only is this the largest in America, not only is it the first of its kind, they have Chinese nationals there working to try to train them on how to use the equipment because they've never done it before. They have no idea what they're doing. And they've already had 2 chemical spills before they were up and running.
Right. And again, they're not zoned for that. They're like, it should not be there. They and well before it ever even got to this place, somebody there knew, hey, we shouldn't be here. You guys should kick us out. And they was like, no, we'll make this happen. We're going to make it work. I mean, holy cow. Like it is, it's astonishing. It's astonishing. All right. So what's next? What can the people do? How does this work? Like what's next?
Oh, we need finances. We have currently 5 active lawsuits. We're actually in committee for the U.S. Supreme Court for the docket in September to be considered to be heard. That was a considerable amount of money to get into the U.S. Supreme Court. Additionally, we're in the circuit court, the South Carolina Circuit Court, and we have 2 cases in the appellate court. We're actually suing DES. That's been stayed for 2 years. The reason we're in the U.S. Supreme Court is our due process has been violated. We sued the county when they issued the first permit. The judge 7 months later stayed our permit because SilFab appealed the BZA ruling, all while they were getting permits and building, and then they got their final CO while our suit was stayed. So we literally have not had 1 day in court in over 2 years as citizens. So we did everything right. We appealed the decision. We won. We then the county that ignored that issued permits. We then sued the county, but we weren't able to be heard. We never had a hearing before a judge, and we still haven't. They have their CO and they have chemical spills. Thankfully, one of the most recent court rulings, which was a huge victory for us, is in their appeal of the BZA ruling, the judge upheld the BZA's ruling. And essentially shot down every reason the county had why they had some kind of legal right to be there.
Right.
So now the county council still won't revoke the unlawful permits because they said, well, SilFab motioned for reconsideration. That's going to be on August 26th. There'll be another hearing for the judge to reconsider his final ruling, which states their permits are unlawful. Additionally, on August 26th, there'll be actually 3 rulings. SilFab filed a motion to reconsider the judge's ruling. We also filed a motion to unstay our lawsuit, which will then open up all of our abilities to do discovery on the county. And then we're going to really find the dirty stuff and who really did backroom deals. And then there is also a motion to do a cease and desist on the 26th. So we're hopeful that we might see some big movement on the 26th.
Are they operating currently? I mean, are they currently doing work? Yes. And the kids have all gone back to school and people are still occupying their homes. So people are currently at risk and in danger while we're waiting for these court proceedings to go through. Yes.
And now one of the reasons I am not literally putting my body down on the road is because they don't yet have their acid scrubber back up and running because it broke when they had the spills last March. So they don't yet have the 6 tanker trucks of the really bad chemicals there on site yet. We have no idea the volume or the quantity of chemicals are current. We know they're manufacturing cells and panels, but we don't know exactly how much. I've personally spoken to 15 employees, whistleblowers. There's another whistleblower lawsuit. There's also I think 5 contractor lawsuits for non-payment. They have about $4 million in outstanding bills. The company is just atrocious. It's insane.
Wow. This is extraordinary. Okay. So, tomorrow, the organizers are having another meeting tomorrow night. It's this one, Knightswood Road. So 760 Knightswood Road in Fort Mill. I'm going to get to see you guys there tomorrow night at 6:30. Looking forward to meeting everybody in person. And again, thanking them for doing the work. I have 0 power, 0 influence. There's nothing I can do. but I'm a voice, absolutely, and glad to be that, and glad to share the story here on this live stream, and of course on the radio program here in Columbia, where I'm on the morning show, and just let people know this is what's going on. This is some crazy stuff, and when we lose our voice, when we can't advocate for ourselves, then we're in some serious trouble. So thank you, Scott. Thank you to the entire Move SilFab team, because I know that you guys are all putting in the work with really the only reward being that justice gets served here, and that this organization gets moved out of your neighborhood and out of your community, and that everybody stays safe. So in the meantime, we'll all be praying that everybody stays safe around there, and I will look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night.
Thank you so much, Kasie.
Thanks, Scott. I'll see you then. Look, what's killing me about all of this conversation, you guys, is that this is the beginning of our corruption month. 4 weeks where we're just going to be talking about corruption. And this is at the most local level. This is surrounding your kid's neighborhood school and the decisions that are being made by the county council, who are people that you elected, people that you know, people that you go to church with, that you worship with, that your kids play baseball together. And they're making these choices that are just bad choices. And then you've got people who have political ambition, and that they are doing what they feel like they need to do to advance their own political ambition, whether that's in a county clerk position or whether that's an elected position, whether that's simply campaign finances. They're still making bad choices, making bad decisions. And you trusted them. They were your elected officials. They're your community members, and you trusted them, and they've just betrayed you in such a huge way. And it's awful. It's just awful. Okay. So what are we going to do? Well, these citizens got together and they decided to take action. I'm so super excited to get to meet them in person tomorrow night. What am I going to do? I, of course, as a candidate for U.S. Senate, am not somebody who has been taking any money from interest groups. I'm not being supported by one of the major establishment parties. There is no money, I assure you, coming into my campaign that is going to force these bad decisions and put some conflicts of interest in the way. I assure you, that's just not how I roll. That's not who I am. So I will just say, if you are frustrated by this, if you're tired of this, if you're sick of the corruption at every single level, the best way to do it is to go out and find the people who are going to do the right thing, regardless of what it costs them, like these folks in this community group up in Fort Mill that are fighting for their kids and for their communities, despite what it costs them, whether it's money or time or their talents. They're out there doing it because it's the right thing to do. So I will commit to doing the same. And like I said, I'll see them tomorrow night at 6:30. All right. So this series, as I said, we're going to be talking about corruption for the next 4 weeks. And you guys, boy, do we have a list, because it's going to get interesting. So here's what I want to start with tonight. Our big conversation. It's about self-dealing. And here's the thing. Self-dealing, when I teach this in my business class and we talk about ethics, self-dealing is where you are making decisions for your organization that are actually benefiting you first and foremost. And so we're seeing a lot of self-dealing in this particular administration. And the highlight for me lately in the self-dealing realm, I say the highlight, probably the most glaringly obvious example of self-dealing lately has been the Truth Social early access subscription model that we're now aware of, which it's blatant. It's just blatant insider trading, like just blatant insider trading, where we have a president who knows that his social media posts, when they go out on Truth Social, are moving markets. They've been testing that since the beginning of the year. It's a lot of what we're hearing about the Strait of Hormuz and the war in Iran. A lot of those are market signaling remarks that are being made on Truth Social and other outlets. And those market signaling remarks are now getting put behind a paywall, and they're going to be behind that paywall for early access for anybody who can afford to pay for them. And that means brokerages and investors. And I mean, if you want to go with the rich get richer, this is the exact example of that. So self-dealing is where people make choices, people make decisions, people build things that are going to benefit themselves first. And we are seeing it. It's rampant in this administration. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that it's never happened before. I'm not in any way pretending like everybody who came before this was, a monastery full of dedicated Jesuit priests. That's not what I'm saying. So don't come after me about everybody else who's always done the self-dealing stuff. What I'm saying is the most recent, obvious, blatant example of that is this paywall and on Truth Social. And if you see it and you know what it is, I just don't understand how anybody can excuse it. I just don't know how you can excuse it. And I think that there's a lot of good being done. There's a lot of good choices happening inside the administration, but it's really hard to say that I'm willing to put up with the really bad stuff because the good stuff is just that good. I mean, is it just that good? At what point does the seesaw get unbalanced here, folks? Because the corruption is rampant and we ought to all be mad about it. We ought to all be frustrated by it. So here's your call to action, our weekly call to action on the live stream. What can you do? I need you to call it like you see it. I need for you to speak up, speak out, be as brave as our friends in York County, in Fort Mill, talking about this SilFab atrocity that's happening in their community. Be brave. When you see it, call it like you see it. Do not turn away. Do not say, well, other people do it too. Do not say, well, there's lots of good things happening. When you see these things that make your blood boil because it's not fair, it's not right, it's not moral, and it shouldn't be this way. When you see those things, call it like you see it. I want to see the comments on Facebook. I want to see the comments on the news articles about this. I want to see it all over X. I want to see it on Instagram. I want to see everybody out there calling it like they see it. Hey, I see this. It doesn't look right. It's not okay. And I want to do something about it. You have agency, you have a vote, and you have a voice, and I need for you guys to start using it. All right. So this is it. That's your call to action. When you see it out there, any little bit of corruption, whether it's at the city council level, the county council level, whatever it is, flock cameras, Lord have mercy, get to the town hall meeting. Okay. Get to your town council meetings and call it like you see it. All right, folks, that's your call to action for the week. Okay. Next week, media. Yep. Next week, we're going to take on the media. And here's why, because in the spirit of call it like you see it, I put a call in to our local television station today, right in the middle of the 6 o'clock news, because at 6:07, when they were covering our U.S. Senate race, they decided to get a particular Democrat's point of view on our U.S. Senate race. And they talked about her campaign and what she's trying to do. They never called me and asked me what I'm doing or talked about me and my campaign, but I'm on the ballot too, friends. And so call it like you see it. When you're out there and you see those news articles and they don't include Kasie Whitener running for U.S. Senate, please tell those news outlets you need to tell the whole story. You need to tell the whole story. Okay. So make sure you're leaving the comments there on their social media, leaving it on their news outlets, everywhere you see it, right? Call it like you see it. And next week, we're going to talk in depth about media corruption and how the media is complicit in our two-party system, which we know is corrupt. Okay. Thanks everybody for being with us. This has been Loaded Dice, and I will see you next week.